So currently, as we charge towards the release of Cataclysm Classic, Phase 3 for Season of Discovery presses on, and we head towards the very interesting Mist of Pandaria remix for retail, it's fair to say that WoW is pretty busy right now. However, there is a demographic of players that seemingly have been forgotten about, and even amongst so much choice, are still sat there as a bit confused for what to do. Now, these are the players who have been shouting for Burning Crusade era servers for the past year or so, joined now by Wrath players, who realise the inevitable judgment day of Cataclysm is flying towards them. And it's a fairly interesting argument to make in the first place, and I get it. One of the reasons Season of Discovery is so popular is we have the familiar home setting of vanilla, but with those extra quality of life changes and spells that simply make the game overall more enjoyable. And I think to a lot of people that's why they love Burning Crusade and Wrath. That extension of vanilla WoW talent trees and gameplay into something that's just a bit more developed, and is what we see a lot of in Season of Discovery. For example, spells such as Crusader Strike and Divine Storm being added to Paladins. But with a fantastic storyline and setting alongside great raids, it's understandable why the demand for Burning Crusade Classic is now rearing its head more and more. For those who aren't interested in Season of Discovery, and certainly don't want the changes that Cataclysm brings, and with so much free or dead server space in Classic Wrath, it's quite questionable why we don't have era realms for Wrath or Burning Crusade much like vanilla. Yet, hiding in the shadows, I think are sensible reasons for why we haven't seen the return of Burning Crusade Classic just yet. And once highlighted, I think the sad truth turns its head in many ways, but I still wouldn't say all hope is lost either. So will we ever see Burning Crusade Classic again? Let's find out. But just before we jump in, as always, feel free to like and subscribe if you're new here, as it helps me out a bunch. So thanks very much indeed. Now, let's get on with it. So first, let's take a look at why we haven't seen Burning Crusade nor Wrath era realms just yet in the same way we saw vanilla. And I think the first big point for Blizzard was that when they made the original vanilla era realms, they were absolutely dead. They were completely empty. No one was there. And I think that this highlighted that although the base version of WoW is a great thing to have available, it put them off making the same choice for era realms in Burning Crusade or Wrath of the Lich King for a little while. Yet time has moved on now, and it's been proven that vanilla era realms have seen a consistent return of players who just simply love being in that phase of World of Warcraft. And I'd bet heavily that Burning Crusade would certainly see a similar return if released now. So just simply turn some of those dead servers in Wrath into Wrath era and Burning Crusade era realms. It's obvious, I hear you cry. However, sadly for Blizzard, it would be a pretty bad business decision at this point. Like mentioned, WoW is extremely busy at the moment with so many variations of the game, and here's where my cynical take comes into it a bit. So currently we have Season of Discovery in progress, Cataclysm Classic due to launch very soon, Dragonflight experiencing some huge changes like Plunderstorm and the Mist of Pandaria remix to lead into Season 4, and then the War Within kicking off a huge story in the World Soul Saga. So I'd hedge a big old bet that at this point in time, as Season of Discovery is popular, retail is going well, and they anxiously await to see how Cataclysm's player base shapes up, that World of Warcraft players do not need dividing into further subsets, and the player base splitting down even more. And especially with Cataclysm coming up, it's not guaranteed for success or a large player base, in the same way they could bank on Burning Crusade or Wrath Classic was going to be. It's always been a divisive expansion, even now with its Classic release still turning players away. However, there is a larger subset of players now willing to return to Cataclysm, and at this point, any distraction of the glory days, such as Burning Crusade era realms, would be a pretty poor business decision, and likely swing those players who are tempted by Cata away, and be drawn back to the huge carrot that is Illidan. So I think you could mainly put it down to a huge timing issue at this point. There's simply too many new Warcraft projects going on or due for release in the next few months, and seeing out to the end of 2024. And I don't think on that roadmap anywhere will be Burning Crusade, sadly. However, I certainly think there is room for it in 2025. So if we put away our tinfoil hats and now put on our copium masks, we can begin to chat about when we will see Burning Crusade Classic once more. I think given we'll have seen out Season of Discovery, retained some data about Cataclysm Classic's progress, and also be in the midst of the War Within by the start of 2025, shouts for Burning Crusade Classic become more realistic, as the tide will be a bit lower by this point, and a lot of anxieties will likely have been calmed by big new releases. And I think a big show of faith towards this kind of thing is actually highlighted in retail WoW. If we see the downtime between Season 3 and Season 4, we've had things like Plunderstorm and the new soon-to-be-released Mist of Pandaria remix for WoW. Some hugely experimental and very fun additions to retail that I never thought we'd see to keep us occupied. So So if we come to a point next year where Mists of Pandaria Classic is on the cards, but there's a bit of a break in between Dragon Soul and Mop Classic being released, as Dragon Soul is coming in January 2025 at a pretty rapid pace, then this would be the best time to revive some servers to serve as that in-between step of content filling for Classic WoW, especially if Season of Discovery has been capped to level 60 for a while by that point, and then they're having more serious chats about a permanent Classic Plus arriving. A great way to retain the player base would be to set up some Burning Crusade and Wrath of the Lich King era servers, or potentially a rolling realm that serves the function of going through Vanilla, BC, and Wrath, as sort of an original trilogy service to players who prefer to experience the good old days. And I suppose there's the whole potential that if Cataclysm fails and Mop Classic is off the cards, then it would make only sense to fill in this space with Burning Crusade and Wrath servers. So looking at it from an overall and pretty rational perspective, and definitely not one indulged by copium, I think we'll likely be seeing Burning Crusade Classic and Wrath Classic once again, most likely in 2025 in my opinion, when the tide of content is a bit lower and things have stabilised in retail. There's a golden spot for the return of Burning Crusade, in between when Season of Discovery and Cata are finishing, and we're crossing over either into Mists of Pandaria, Classic Plus, or whatever is next for Classic in general. I reckon the Classic WoW team is well aware of this, and is delaying the return of Burning Crusade Classic and Wrath, as they know for sure it brings back some short-term brownie points, and it's a pretty easy thing to bank on, especially if there's a bit of a player drought in Classic by the start of next year, if Season of Discovery or Cata runs out of steam. So it's not all dread and gloom, unless of course you wanted to bring Burning Crusade back this year, in which case I'm very deeply sorry. Try to get hyped for Cataclysm? I don't know, my apologies. But let me know what you think. Will we ever see Burning Crusade Classic again? And if so, when do you think it'll hit us? Be sure to let me know in the comments below. As always, if you're new here, feel free to like and subscribe. And on that note, I think I'll say ta-ra for now, and I'll see you later.